I wanna marry you. Just say I do.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Behind the Veil, a show that provides insight into the world of weddings. I'm your host, Keith Willard. Welcome back to the show. Today, we're going to be talking about being overwhelmed, because if you're in the event industry right now, I guarantee you that you are working harder than you've ever worked in your life, right? Because here we are with all of our brides and the brides that we really want to do everything we possibly can for, because they survived the pandemic. They had to move their wedding from 2020 to 2021. But now we have all these new brides and new couples. And so how do we deal with this crazy workload? Where do we find balance between our work and our real life with our family? Well, today's guest is going to give us some real world tips, things that we can do today to help us. But before I introduce her, let me introduce our Behind the Veil co-host, Marcy Gutenberg. Welcome back, Marcy.
Hello, Keith.
So, I know that you're kind of in the same boat that I am, that we're just like, wow, okay.
We're swimming.
Stack. And it's just like, oh my God, what do we do? Because, we're in the service industry.
Yes.
We want to make people's dreams come true.
That's why we do this. We love to make people happy.
Yes, we love to make people happy. And, and the thing is that at some point, something's got to give, and we don't want it to be, to do a lesser job for our clients. We always want to do our best for our clients. But then we also have our families and our life. And at some point, we're going to have to figure out how to make the two mesh together and still be successful.
Absolutely. We
want a balance.
We need a balance.
we need a balance. And which is why I'm so excited to invite Lynn Resnick to our show. Hi, Lynn. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Lynn.
Hello.
Hi. So we're really excited to have you on, because I know that, first of all, we know that you're the owner of Lynn Resnick Photography, and that you were named one of the top photographers by Boston Magazine, and that you were a high school teacher, which we talked about because this is your second time on the show. And so we've talked about the fact that you use your high school teacher voice to keep people in mind, which I love, right? But you also do this lecture called Batch Working and Efficiency Techniques During Busier Times. Well, obviously now that's it's a perfect time to be talking about it, because that's what we're in right now, is busier times.
Yes. Oh my gosh. You guys are feeling it. I'm feeling it. I think everyone in the wedding industry is feeling it at this point. And 2021 has just been, for me, kind of an endless busy season. So
yes.
We're still in it. It's happening. And I think with 2022, everyone's talking about how many weddings are going to be next year, like more than there have been since 1984 or something like that. Like in a single year, it's going to be a huge year for weddings. So we're going to be, we need to find some sustainability in all of this busy.
And that's the hard part, because none of us want to say no to a client. This is why we're obviously in business, to make money, to support ourselves, and so we don't really want to say no to anyone, but we also have to make sure that we still have a life that we're paying the bills for, because it's great to make money, but if you don't have a life to go home to, why work? They say, what did they say? Work to live, not live to work.
Yes,
exactly. Exactly. Right? Yep. I know. I was just, my husband and I talk about it, all the time, and trying to find that balance. And certainly when I was first starting, the hustle level beyond busy, right, was even higher, because you're trying to get a business launched and things like that. And he's like, but I still want to speak to you on a daily basis before we maybe have an occasional meal together and things like that. So finding that balance is so important. And with weddings, we work weekends. So it's where are we finding the time that's not a weekend to actually fill our own cups back up and kind of manage, wearing the other hats, family members,
right?
Parents, spouses, all of those things. Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, is that, again, and I've talked about this on the show before, that there's an intensity right now in the event industry. There's like a weird energy that I've never had to deal with before, because I feel like people are worried that it's going to come back, that that here they are planning their perfect day, and yet they're going to be faced with moving their date again if they were a 2020 bride, or listening to the horror stories of 2020, and now you're a 2021 bride or 2022 bride. And so there's even a bigger intensity about getting things done quicker, faster, more efficient. But you're still dealing with one human being at one point, and one person, depending on the photographer, event planner, etc., who are balancing all of these other personalities and lives. So, it's hard to get to a point that you go, okay, I'm not going to work until 10 o'clock every night and wake up at 5 and be at the computer by 6 and to be able to make people's dreams come true. There's got to be a more efficient way of doing what we're doing.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. And we also have to learn, I think, eventually to say no to some things and figure out our own non-negotiables. That's one of the things I would think we can talk about today. What are those non-negotiables, and kind of maintaining some hard lines about what we say yes to, what we say no to. Because when we say yes to one thing, we're saying no to something else, right?
Right.
We're always saying no to like that time at home, that time with family, that time to like recharge, to take a break, to sleep in, whatever those things are. So all those, even those
sleep in.
Like,
okay. What? Sleep in. Please. I'm like, there's no such thing as Sundays.
That anymore.
Yeah, I'm like, Sundays no longer count in my house, by the way, because I used to think I would look forward to Sunday, and Sunday isn't. I had to say, okay, no more Sundays. It's just a Monday, and it's like, Monday through Friday. That's it. That's all you get. Monday through Friday. There are no days off. There are, etc. So okay. So let's dive into this. You're a busy professional. You've got a workload that you feel like, and I think I'm going to start with because in one of the emails that we were going back and forth, you had an interesting piece that I connected with that said, my workload is so big that now I avoid it. Right? You and I get that. I mean, there are times that I think I have so much to do today and I don't know where to begin.
Yeah, it becomes so overwhelming that, I mean, my editing queue right now is, an epically long list of things that I need to be editing for clients just in the last few months.
Right.
And it could be really easy to just be like, well, I'm just going to like look at my email today instead, and I'm going to avoid that, or just like not know where to begin, so that you really just freeze in that.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
Kind of thing. Yeah, absolutely. And so we have to kind of be able to figure out ways to move past that, because there's a lot on our plates, and this time in particular, there's so much on our plates, and maybe more than normal. Like you were saying, I think everyone feels this intensity right now, and it can be really paralyzing, but that is so counterproductive to actually being able to serve your clients well. And that's what we're all looking to do. If we really want to serve them well, we can't just like freeze in this overwhelm. We have to be able to move past it. And I think one of the first things, there are lots of tools that we can talk through today, and like specific techniques or strategies. The first one, I think, may not be something that everyone would agree with or has thought about, and that is to actually keep your morning routine, or create a morning routine that is for yourself. So if that means you have to get up earlier to do it because you're here, that's what I did. I get up like 2 hours earlier now than I did when I was, in that slow, especially 2020. This 2020, I have nowhere to be. I'm going to, get to my computer at 10. I now get to my computer at like 8. But get up much earlier so that I can still have that time in the morning to maintain a morning routine to start my day the right way for me. Yeah. And it's grounding, and it helps you kind of think through the day and start on the right foot, and not start late or frazzled or stressed out. It's a way to really center yourself. So keeping a morning routine, first tip, I think is super important. Do you guys do that?
Well, okay. So, okay. I love the fact that you brought this up, because I used to have a morning routine. I will have it again. And I used to say in the morning, I would get up and I would go for a walk with my dogs, because it's before sunrise usually for me getting up. And I would walk a mile or two and then come home, and I would have my morning routine. And then, of course, things started creeping in. I started going, well, if I can get to a couple of emails early, then by the time I have to get to my first phone call, I'm already gotten things done. And I think it was almost counterproductive at some point because I no longer had my own time.
Yeah.
I no longer had me time to get used to it. But my issue is getting it started. Like, I get it. I mean, I hear it, and we've had other people on the show. They're like, you got to have some me time. You got to make sure that you have something going on in your life that's just for you. But if you're a busy professional and you're like me, right, it's hard to get that first step done. And I realized that I have to then tell myself the night before, tomorrow morning, no matter what, you're walking. You're going to get up out of bed. You're going to take the dogs and you're going to go for a walk. But for God's sakes, do it. Do it for yourself. But I had to do it. I have to do it the night before. I can't do it the morning because in the morning I'm tired and I don't really want to do anything. And I'm like, oh my God, let me just look at some emails.
Slide onto your phone and then all of a sudden it's over, right?
Right.
So absolutely, you have to do it before. And the other thing is, like, it does not have to be the exact same routine that you had on a slower season. We go through seasons. This busy season, it doesn't have to be an hour walk. Maybe you go for 15 minutes instead of 30 minutes like you used to. Maybe
Right.
you do, a shorter walk with the dogs instead of that longer one, and you have that cup of coffee as you start answering emails, something like that. But maintaining even 15 minutes, if that's what that looks like for you, of getting that kind of physical time out and starting that way. And that's an easier bargain to make because now you're not going from instantly emailing and missing an hour of that time. It's an easier kind of bargain you can make with yourself. I'm just going to take 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Just give yourself the 15 minutes. And if you need to get up 15 minutes earlier to do that, that's a lot easier than getting up an hour if you're already getting up, before the sunrise anyway.
Well, I will throw in my 2 cents here. And I heard this not on this show, but on another podcast. They said, write yourself a love note. And I thought that was such a strange thing to do, to write yourself a love note. There's like, act like you're somebody else and write down a love note to yourself about how great you actually are, right? I'm kind. I work really hard for my clients. I go to bat for my friends. I'm loyal, et cetera, right? And then at the bottom of that and said, I am worth taking 30 minutes in the morning for myself. And it was surprising what a difference that made. And I mean, I thought I really felt like an idiot writing it. I have to tell you, I really thought I'm sitting here writing a love note to myself like an idiot. Okay. But it made a huge impact in my, like, okay, you know what? I am worth it. I am not just a wedding planner. I'm not just the person that makes other people's dreams come true. I am important to my friends and my family. I am important to myself. And damn it, get your ass up and have a little time for yourself. It's okay. Because there's a guilt. There's a level of guilt that goes into this as well.
Well, and the truth is, so you started doing it again, it sounds like, because
no.
No.
No. I mean, okay, let me say I did and then I didn't. And so if I was saying this morning, I didn't. Tomorrow morning, I will. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
But so you've kind of done both though. And what's important to remember is that giving yourself those 30 minutes or those 15 minutes, it doesn't actually detract from your productivity. Starting that day off right, being more grounded and less frazzled and ready to go, and giving yourself just that little ease into the morning and maintaining that routine actually makes you more productive. You're going to get more done. You're going to be better for your clients. You're going to be in a better mood. You're actually going to be able to serve your clients better if you take that time for yourself. It's counterintuitive because you feel like you're losing time. And in a busy season, it's really hard to feel like you're losing any minutes. But the truth is you're actually going to gain productivity back if you do it.
What do you think, Marcy? What do you think? You agree with this?
I think yes, because I think that, like, for me, I like to get up. I like to have my cup of coffee. I like to kind of have that ramp up time in my mind. And I just need that gradual wake up in the morning too. So that's how I am. And then I can really start plugging away once I get into a groove. But I do need that time in the morning to kind of gently get up.
Well, I'm not one of those gentle wake up people. Like I get up
Pop
and I'm
up.
like, yeah, I'm like, let's go. I mean, I will even reduce the time in my shower if I think that it'll give me more time on the computer. I'm like that person. Like it's horrendous. But of course, then I'm going to go back to the big pile of work. So here I am. I get up early. I take a really quick shower. I hurry the dogs along. Poop, hurry up, poop. I gotta go. And then I get to my computer. I'm like, oh my God. There's so much to do. What do I look at? So I get it. I understand it. Logically, my brain is saying this is the right way to do it. But when it comes to reality, what are some tips that you can give somebody to say, look, be kind to yourself. Do this for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes back to knowing that you can't serve others well if you're empty. If we're all running on empty, you're not going to be your best. You're not going to handle that thing that comes up, right? You're both planners. Like you're dealing with putting out fires all the time in your business, or problem solving creatively for a linen that didn't come in, or an issue with a couple between their like in-laws or parents, or whatever those things are. There's so many dynamics that you're dealing with.
Right.
And you're not going to be able to do your best work in handling those things, or finding the best, most creative solutions, being patient, being resourceful. If you're running on empty, you're just going to be, you're going to get short with yourself, with everybody else. It doesn't go well in the long run. So being kind to yourself actually means being kind to your clients. So if it's not about you, if you're like, I'll put myself last every time, if you really want to put your clients first, put yourself first, so that you can then put your clients first the right way.
Well, and a good way to explain this is that, how do you think you would handle a stressful situation after getting into an argument with your partner versus having fun with your dogs, playing with your dogs, right? Like,
exactly.
What is your mindset between these two? And how do you think you'll react to a pressure or a trigger right after one of these things? Okay, so you mentioned something about being empty. Can you elaborate on that idea of being empty? What do you mean by being empty?
Yeah, I mean, for me, that looks like just being really overtired, feeling like I have no energy, feeling like I don't like or enjoy or want to do my job anymore, which is just crazy because I love what I do.
Right.
I love the couples I work with. I love photographing weddings. I love all of the things I do basically. So when I start to feel like I would rather just not be working, I want to stay in bed, I don't feel like actually getting up and tackling my to-do list, that's really out of the ordinary. And that, I think, to me, that's what that empty feeling is I just feel like I have no more to give. I just don't want to do it. I need to like sit and binge some Netflix and like tap out of life. That's that empty feeling.
Right.
And at that point, you're like, it's too late. In some ways, we have to kind of figure out how do we get out of that. The goal here with like a morning routine and having some non-negotiables is that you don't get to that point. And we can talk about, well, there are other things that we can do once we're there. We kind of just have to plow through and force ourselves to like start tackling that work. And we can talk about ways to do that. The other thing is like, it may not be, if it's not a morning routine for you, if that's really something that doesn't feel like the thing for other people, it might be like a workout in the midday, or maybe it's breaking for dinner with your family. And then maybe you have to go back to work at night, right? I always try to, dinner is like my end time. So I am trying really hard not to work after that. We cook dinner together and then I'm done for the day.
Right.
And can I still actually sleep without keeping myself up with all the things running through my mind? Not always.
Right.
Most
Exactly.
Right. We have to do that. But like, those are those non-negotiables that you try to hold yourself to so that you can be a good person in your life to the people in your life besides your clients as well as yourself, that help ultimately keep me balanced. Because if I know that this was true as a teacher too, if you gave kids a week to do an assignment, they would take the week to do it. If you gave them 2 hours to do it, they would just take the 2 hours. And if you gave them 15 minutes, they could probably do it, right? Within reason.
Wow. Yes, that's actually true. Actually, I'm married to a teacher.
Right? We tend to take as much time as we are allowed and given. And as creatives and entrepreneurs, we have to set our own time limits. So if I know that I have no non-negotiables, I'm going to work until 10 o'clock at night, well, then all of a sudden the work I need to get in that day can just spread out over the course of all of those hours. If I know that I'm going to stop at 6:30 to cook with my husband, I now need to fit it in before 6:30. And all those things that have to get done pretty much always get done by 6:30 because I've set that as like a non-negotiable in my mind that I'm going to do.
Right. But we cheat ourselves. We put non-negotiables and then we cross our own lines because, this has to be done tonight. We got to get this timeline out by tomorrow, et cetera, et cetera. I feel like that's one of those, if the like kind of ish lines, it's an ish, like, okay, I'm going to make a non-negotiable in my head, but then I don't stick to it because something comes in, and I'm very bad at reconfirming that non-negotiable because life is like that. Life, you have to make adjustments once in a while. It's putting that line back into play that is the hard piece for me. I'll do it once, I'll be very successful at it, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then something will come up like, oh my goodness, the wedding's tomorrow and I need to finalize the timeline because they just sent me edits for it. I go past that line and then I find myself going past that line constantly. It's like, oh, well, I did it once, so all right, I'll do it again.
Yeah, you erased it and there's no bringing it back. Yeah, no,
right.
I get that. Well, one, you have to give yourself grace. Like we all have to do it. We're all going, nobody's perfect. We're not robots. We're not going to make it. And sometimes you have to get that thing done. You're going to have to go late. One of the things that I like to do just all the time, but works really well for a busy season in particular too, is time blocking on your calendar. So that is a good way to bring back that non-negotiable because you can put it right on your calendar. And I would give it a color code, like maybe bright red, like here is the line, like this is where work ends, or this is where I take that walk, or I go on that workout, whatever it is. But I have like color coding mainly because my husband doesn't want to see a lot of what's on my calendar because I do so much of it. Like every minute of my day is counted for. That may not work for everybody, but I literally will put all of the time for all of those pieces on my calendar, including like when I'm stopping. I had, time to like shower and prep to come on this podcast on my calendar for earlier. I knew I had to stop work and get my butt in gear to get ready for you. So that is a great way to do it. It not only shows you like how much time are you actually spending on tasks, because we might think, we're going to spend an hour in our email. And then the truth is it actually takes you 3 hours to get through your inbox. And you're wondering where your day went and you're stressed and behind. And the truth is you either just took too long or needed to spend the time in your inbox that day. So you're going to have to push some of those other tasks either later or tomorrow, etc. But blocking out those chunks of time on your calendar is a really good visual way to do it. And then you have that cue to remember to get back into holding yourself to those non-negotiables too.
Well, I have to tell you, again, this is one of the things that I had to remind myself is that sometimes when I think about taking time for myself, I overestimate the amount of time it's really going to take for me to take time for myself. Like if I say, all right, tonight I'm going to go to dinner with some friends. And in my head, I think, okay, that's it. That's done. My whole evening's over. But really, I'm probably talking about an hour in reality, like start to finish, an hour. And so then the idea of taking time for myself actually becomes the issue because I've overestimated the amount of time that it's actually going to take for me. Like, well, let's say walking, like the walking in the morning. Yeah. 30 minutes, maybe. And yet in my head, I feel like, it's going to take me forever to get down. And but it's not true. I think that what has helped me is that I actually time myself now on some stuff. And I write a note saying my 2.5 mile walk this morning took all of 29 minutes.
Right.
Relax.
All right. And then you can put it on your calendar for the next day for 30 minutes because you know that's all it's going to be.
Right.
Lock it right in and put it in there. Yeah.
Because I think that because
work test too.
Yeah, but I think we overestimate some of the things that it takes us to do some things, and we become our own worst enemy when it comes to time. Time sucks. You know, it's like it's not really taking that much time. Take a moment, right? But if you write it down and it logically in your brain because you've now written it down, you have an exact time of when you started and when you ended it. Well, that's one of the things that helps me. Actually, I don't know if it'll help other people, but I hope it does because it made me really think about how long my personal stuff actually takes. And it's not that much.
Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, it's another way of knowing your numbers. People talk about you actually relieve stress when you know the financial numbers in your business. This is just another set of kind of numbers and like time management stuff to know. And it will relieve the stress if you actually start visualizing it, managing it, knowing those numbers so that you know really what time you're putting into what tasks and where you can give yourself those breaks to recharge.
And I love the fact that you said, like, put it in your calendar, redefine those lines. Like, in my, as I look for my phone right next to me, in the iPhone, you could have it as a recurring date. So maybe like the 1st and the 15th of every month, you just put a little note to yourself that says, reconfirm your line. And then it's just automated for here till forever. And it's just a little gentle reminder to reconnect. Put your line back.
Set an alarm even too. Like if there's one that's like you want to make sure that you're hitting dinner every night at the same time, like set an alarm to go off 10 minutes before you're supposed to go down to dinner so you can try to wrap up whatever you're in the middle of to a place where you can at least break for dinner, right?
I love that. All right, so okay, now we got past morning. You do something. You talk about something about batch working. What does that mean? What does batch working mean? Because to me it means more. I don't know. I feel like, oh gosh, that's even more work. I have to figure out how to do batch working now. What is batch working?
Yeah, it's nothing extra you have to learn how to do. So that's good. It's basically the opposite of multitasking. Multitasking actually really doesn't work well. It's not a great use of our time. So this is the opposite of that. So instead of bouncing back and forth between 85 open tabs on your computer and editing something and answering an email every time it dings at you, it's about narrowing down your focus to one task and blocking some time to do that one task and dedicate uninterrupted time to it. So for me, that also looks like turning off all the notifications. No email. It's not open unless I'm in email, and that's what I'm doing. But editing, for example, I'm just going to be in Lightroom. I'm not even going to have my computer, the internet open. Right. Turning off Instagram notifications that ding and it feels like you have to look at it. You can put your phone on airplane mode because unless there's a really, impending doom in your life, the 2 hours you need to do this uninterrupted, it's probably going to be fine. You don't even need the text messages coming through. And then you have that chance to really focus on that one item. And in particular, the batching part is to think about all the things we do on a repeatable basis. So social media, you're trying to post on Instagram every day, or you're posting on Facebook 3 times a week, or you're trying to pin pins on Pinterest to drive traffic to your website, or you're trying to do all the things because if you're like me, because I feel like my list of social media commitments is just ever growing, right? You want to blog twice a month, they say, or every week, or whatever they tell you to do. I don't know. But all of these things are repeatable tasks that we keep having to come back to. So instead of doing it every morning, kind of getting up and trying to figure out what to say on Instagram, you set aside a 2-hour block and you plan out all of your Instagram posts, including the captions, for the next 2 weeks, a month, however far you can get through them, in a 2-hour time period. And there are tools that you can use to do that as well. Same thing with blogging. Instead of just doing one blog post at a time, see if you can get into a roll with it and prep the copy for 3 separate blog posts in one shot. Because now you're in this mode, you're writing, you have that focus on whatever you're sharing on that blog, and you can actually get a lot more done. So now you have the next, month and a half ready for your blog post instead of just, I did the one for tomorrow.
See, that sounds lovely. But then when I hear you say, okay, you gotta set your mind to blog posts for the next month, all of a sudden I hear, like my brain's like, what? I have to do what? I have to think about what? Oh my God, for the next month, I gotta think past like the next week. I mean, that's the hard part, because there's an anxiety level that comes with not looking past the next week for me. I obviously I have to look past next week when it comes to weddings, but my stress point comes like, okay, I have 1 week till the wedding. That means I have to finish the timeline. I have to reach out to all the vendors. I've got to make sure that all the counts are correct. There's a whole lineage or list of pieces that have to happen in that final week. So when I start thinking, okay, 3 weeks, 4 weeks down the road, my brain goes into like, oh my God, really? You want me to think that far ahead for something that I don't really need to take care of today? And that's the hard part. Getting into a practice of knowing that this is going to help you in the long run.
Yeah, no, I get it. Marcy,
for the last 3 months, that has been my goal, is to do a whole month worth of putting my captions and putting my boards together, so that I don't have to do it during the week. I can do it once for the upcoming month. I have been trying to do that now for 3 months.
Yeah, but I mean, I know you, Marcy, and you're that kind of person. Oh my God, you're like the most efficient human being I know. And I'm like, well, of course you would do that. Of course. Oh my God.
It to me is, it's like you. I mean, like that gives me anxiety. But I do follow one of the other things that you did say, Lynn, which was the color coding in my computer with my calendar when I'm blocking out time. I do in the morning. I like to not make an appointment first thing in the morning, because I personally like to go through all my email. First thing I do is I get rid of all the junk email. Then I go through and I figure out what's really important for today. And then I go through and start fishing through the other thing as time permits, because it's my emails, we become bogged down. I mean, we went from being obviously a paper society to a paperless society when it comes to mail per se.
Yeah.
And sending junk email. So I just think that, our boxes just become inundated for people to send anything from anywhere, unsolicited or solicited.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I get that it is like a hard thing to think about all of a sudden now planning for a month out. So just do it for the week ahead then, potentially, or think about it in those small chunks, and you can like build to those larger pieces of time as you're working it out. For me, I love being able to, I used Hootsuite for scheduling. Now Facebook has their own scheduler, but I didn't want to deal with Facebook. That was like Instagram. I actually still do on kind of a daily basis, caption wise. I'm planning my grid because as a photographer, it's like I'm a little obsessive about it. Right. But whatever I say, whatever I feel like in the moment for those, but with Facebook, I just don't want to be on there, but I want to make sure that I'm still active. And so I'll just schedule out like quick comments, whatever. I'm just posting 2 or 3 times a week anyway. And so I can put a little chunk of time on my calendar, usually an hour, and I can get those scheduled for the whole month. And then I just don't have to do it. So it's 1 hour once a month.
Right.
As opposed to if you actually think about the time that you're taking when you're trying to fit it in on a daily basis or doing it on the fly, and then you miss it. And, Well, so it can get to be actually a time saver and like a sanity saver, but you can work up to it. Maybe you just start with like put 20 minutes on and just try to get the next week done so that you don't have to look at it again until next Monday.
So I do use Hootsuite. Sorry. I do use Hootsuite, and sometimes I like to use Planoly, because Planoly allows me to see like a vision board and see where I want to put things. And I'm starting to get more into that because they recently, updated their filters so that you can add more letters, or more characters in your post. And sometimes, depending on what I'm posting, sometimes I want to be a little bit more explicit, and sometimes I want to be a little bit more, straight to the point and, more quiet, I would say.
Okay, I get it. I get the idea of like holding 20 minutes, and you're like, okay, we're gonna hold this hour, we're gonna set it aside, we're gonna do this. But if you're like me, hearing my phone ring is like, I almost said catnip. Because it's not really catnip, but it feels like catnip because you're like, oh my God, I gotta see who's calling. Oh my God, I gotta see, I mean, it's like an immediate response. Like, who is that? Oh my God, what if it's really important, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I gotta get used to the idea that I can call people back and that not everybody expects you to answer all of the time.
Yeah, well, and this is the great thing about what we do. It's not open heart surgery, and no one is going to die on your table if you take 20 minutes for yourself to do that batched work or to have that coffee or whatever that is. So that's why I said, like, putting your phone on airplane mode for the 20 minutes that you need to work on that thing that you want to be uninterrupted for, so you're not letting it ring and getting text messages. Because if they're popping up, those notifications, I mean, our brains are like hardwired to get excited and want to check that. Like, you have this need, right? It's much harder to ignore it once you know it's happening than to just put it on airplane mode and then check back in after to see what you've missed. And the vast majority of the time, I mean, the day before wedding, don't do that. Obviously, you have a million things you have to be doing. I would never suggest that you just like dip out for an hour the day before your wedding. Right? But there are other times when you could, there's nothing that's like absolutely needs to happen today, in the next 20 minutes, in the next 30 minutes. I can give myself that time to turn all the distractors off and just bang out this work that I need to get done. In fact, you'll probably finish it faster, because this was just so true for me the other day. I didn't do that. I ended up in a texting conversation with a couple other friends. We're all sitting editing and texting at the same time. It took me 3 hours to edit something that should have taken me, 60 minutes max. Like, what was I doing? It's because I was in a text conversation for like 50 minutes of that time. There's just
and I can't text as fast as most people because I got the 2 thumbs going, and then I have other clients that are voice to text, and their texts are a million, and I'm like 1 thumb at a time. I feel like the person with the computer doing the 1 finger at a time. I mean, by the time I've responded to the first question, they've asked 4 more. I'm like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? So I totally get that. But the new iPhone update, if you happen to have an iPhone, has a do not a quiet time built into it. You can schedule quiet time now, and your phone will automatically switch over to quiet time during a schedule. And
that's brilliant.
It's brilliant. It is brilliant, because then you put it in, you don't think about it, because that's one of the things, is that if it's already scheduled, our brain doesn't really think, and all of a sudden your phone's not ringing, you don't realize it's not ringing, et cetera, and then you'll get your voicemails later, but it's one of those like, okay, how do I get comfortable with it kind of moment, and I think it's just a matter of doing it.
And if you really want to have like somebody answering the phone because you don't want it to go to a voicemail, you can always hire like a virtual assistant that will at least pick up the phone and take a call. And that way, at least they're having that personalized contact.
But you get into that virtualized assistant kind of thing, and I start thinking like, oh, they're not going to answer the phone. I will, or they're going to give them the wrong answer. And I think that just comes down to, okay, be very specific about what they reply with.
Expectations, right?
Yeah. Hey, you're talking to a live person. Unfortunately, Keith's not available. He's in a meeting, but let me take a message for you, and he'll get back to you as soon as he's done.
Exactly.
Done. Right.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. They don't have to actually have the answers, right? It's just having that live
taking a message.
Yeah, because people feel better when they have a live person, because they're like, okay, somebody heard me and they said that he's going to get back to us. Okay, so I mean, oh my God, we're running through the wire. Okay, so I wanted to ask you about efficiency techniques. We talked a little bit about efficiency techniques, but now that we're talking about batch working, are there other techniques that we can put into our day that can make us more efficient and obviously add to the ability to add these other things like quiet time for ourselves or a morning walk?
Yeah, well, I think absolutely. So a couple of them. One would be, I mentioned Hootsuite, but there are a lot of apps or like tools that you can use to actually build in efficiencies. So Tailwind for Pinterest is one that I use, and like 30 minutes, and that's it for the whole month. And I get a whole month's worth of pins scheduled out for Pinterest. Having like a, client relationship management tool, a CRM tool that you're using to actually build in email templates and make sure your workflow is more automated so that it's scheduled out ahead of time and you know what those client communication touch points are going to be. And then you have those templates for all the things that you send to every client. Like if you don't have a template for an email you send more than once, start there, because that's where you're spending so much of your time. Take those emails that you just sent and turn it into a template, make it fill in the blank, and like make your life so much better. So templates is a huge one for efficiency's sake, right? I mean,
I'm sorry, it makes me laugh a little bit because I am so bad at this. I have an email that I send out for services, because I get inquiries constantly, like, what are you available and how much do you charge, right? And, this is so stupid. You guys gonna hate me for this. Anyway, so I have a reply, but I Grammarly corrects it every single time, and I haven't saved the new one. And so what I end up doing is re-forwarding the one that I've already sent that's wrong, and go through and have to click it. Click. Okay.
Oh my God, just save that email.
Just save it.
It's the worst. Oh my God. I kick myself every single time. And I'm like, just save this email. And then I don't. I click send and then I'm like off to the next thing. And then another inquiry comes in and I do the same thing. I'm like my worst. I am the worst person for myself at this moment. Oh my God. Yes. I mean, okay, I can't be the only one.
Block some time on your calendar today to save that email.
You need to do that.
I know, it's so stupid, but every time I do it, I laugh at myself too a little bit. I'm like, you're an idiot. Just forward this stuff and save this. But it's a creature of habit. It's a creature of habit.
Well, but with those email templates, and I mentioned like that workflow idea, I actually have about 30 emails that go out over the course of a client relationship for my couples.
Right.
And every single one of them is a template. And they're all tweaked to become personal. They're all, they all have like those little places where I'm making it personal. So it feels like a very custom experience, but they're all already written, the bulk of them, so that you have that consistently high level of thought and, delivery and expertise in them. But I can send it like on the fly as something comes up. And the other thing to pair with that, for me, my CRM, I hate that it fills in like a gajillion things on your calendar. So I actually don't link it to my calendar, which is a shortcut some people might use. So I actually create a client communication calendar that's separate. That's just a checklist for me that matches with my workflows for all of my clients so that I can go through and make sure that I'm sending those emails on time. And it's just another way of holding myself accountable to the client communication side of things, even when it gets busy, because I can just check it quickly and send off the emails I need to send. So that's another kind of way, like to partner your emails with your workflow and make sure that those are just going out efficiently.
Yeah.
But then beyond that, the other thing I would say is stacking your days. So stacking either, kinds of tasks that you do on your computer or stacking your meetings. So I have limited my meeting days to specific days. So that if I have one meeting, now I'm going to stack all the other meetings for my week as best as I can into that one day. So that's my meeting day. I'm either leaving the house and running those errands and going from meeting to meeting, or now if we're on Zoom, I'm doing it over Zoom, back to back, whatever it is. But instead of like letting clients decide when they want to meet with you and having a meeting spread across every single day in your week, which means you have to stop, you have to leave the house, you have to prepare, you have to get your notes together, you have to take all that time to like be with that client in client facing mode.
Right.
Do it one day, pick 1 or 2 days a week, limit your offerings for availability to your clients to those days or to other vendors as best you can. There's never a perfect world and there's always going to be, exceptions to this, but stack those things up. I even do it with like mail. I hate the post office. I just hate going. It's like
I love the post office. Oh my god, I love my post office.
I wish you could take my mail to the post office. I hate it so much.
Oh my god, I love my ladies at my post office. I'm just saying, I deal with the same old. I'm just saying, the same 4 ladies I've been dealing with for the last decade. They're like, oh, what's the invite look like today? Let me see your wedding invite. They all come crowding around. They, adorable. I get it, and they're adorable. I mean, that's because they're nice, not.
Well, I just don't like having to go. I don't like standing in line. I don't like having to take time to do it. It's just the worst. So that's one of those things that I will, again, once a week, I just wait. I save up all of the things that I have to send, and I'm only going there once a week, if that. Like, hopefully I don't even have to go every week. But all of that, if I miss it, if I come back, I've literally done this and be like, I forgot to send out this thing. Goes into next week's pile. I'm not going back there again. Not taking that time. But stacking your errands, you can do it for housework too. What we're not talking about is that the busy season means it's busy because your work increases, but everything else stays the same. So like, you might do it with your housework. You might do it with your cooking on Sunday so that you have meals prepped for the entire week. Like, there are other ways, if it can't be with your work itself, to batch in other areas of your life so that you ease up some time for yourself in those busy weeks.
See, that makes sense to me. That right there, I was like, well, love that, because that's not associated with a client. Right. So I don't feel like I'm missing out on business. I don't feel, because it's my personal time. And that makes so much sense, because there's not any emotion attached to it. There's no anxiety attached to my housework and that. So that makes a lot of sense to me. And if I can do it in my personal life, maybe it can then flow over to my business life.
Yeah.
I love that idea. I do love that idea.
And nowadays, I mean, you can stack even just like your outside errands, because, I mean, think about it. I mean, that's time away from your, your office or your home. And it's also, there's, the cost associated with, your driving. I mean, the gas has gone up. So obviously, if you can stack your errands, at least you get a lot of things done in one day, and then you're not having to spread it out, every single day.
Well, this excludes Home Depot, because we all know that we're going to make 18 trips to Home Depot. So just FYI, Home Depot's out of this conversation.
Yeah, if you've got a DIY home project, you're going to be at Home Depot a lot.
You're like, I forgot this one screw. Why is that in there? Yeah, Home Depot's not in this.
It's like a magnet, once it pulls you in, it just keeps sucking you back in.
Oh my God, it's crazy. It really is crazy.
But I don't get it.
I mean, but all of this sounds super reasonable. It really does sound very reasonable. And again, if I was looking at this as a logical human being, which I am not, I am not a logical human being, I'd be like, well, yeah, these things all make sense. I should be putting these into my life tomorrow. So, I mean, if you're like me, crazy little OCD human being, what are some ways that we can ease some of these ideas into our work life? Does that make sense? I mean, because not everybody's going to put all of these things today into their work life. They're going to try something, a little something here, a little something there. What is like one of the easiest, simplest, but great result kind of thoughts that is possible to make your life either easier or more efficient?
Yeah, that's a great question. And honestly, I think it's going to be different for everybody, because there were some things that Marcy was like, well, I kind of tend to do that anyway. And Keith, you're like, no way, that I can't even wrap my mind around it, or vice versa. So it's thinking through all of them and finding the one that feels like the most reasonable or the easiest one to start with.
Right.
And just doing that one thing. So definitely it's pick one and try that. And don't go for that, if you're going to try batch working, don't try writing, a month's worth of blog posts in your first attempt.
Right.
Try to do, 2 instead of 1 and see how that goes. Can you just double that productivity during that time and give that a try? Like, give yourself the grace to ease into it little by little. If you're going to try batching Instagram posts for the first time, just do 1 week and see how that goes. See how long that actually takes you. See where you end up getting into that groove versus like when you hit writer's block, because Instagram captions are like the hardest thing ever sometimes for you to write, right?
Yeah.
Kind of feel that out and give it a few, but give it a try consistently. So if it's going to be like you're batching for a week, put it on your calendar to do again next week, and use your calendar to help keep you accountable. Because if you try it once and you fail at it, that's when most of us stop, right? It's
yes.
Like resolutions too. We do that. You have to give yourself grace. It's a busy season, and forming a habit takes multiple attempts, right? What do they say? It's like 30 days to form a habit, or
21 days.
They say 21 days. I'm sorry. I've had habits that.
And if you break it, you have to not let it go too long, because otherwise you have to start all over again. So if you're going to break it, get right back on it.
But they also say that if you say something to yourself that's not true 7 times, then you think it's true. So, I mean, your brain can be manipulated. I'm just saying, in multiple directions.
So use that though, and make sure that you're giving yourself more than one chance at this stuff. Like, don't just try it once, it fails, and be like, oh, it can't work for me. It can probably work for you. You have to give it at least a few chances and try it out. And remember that multitasking is actually not your friend. You're not as good or efficient when you're multitasking as you think you are. None of us are. It's been proven in a bunch of different scientific studies. This is not just me saying it. It's actually proven. When you can actually focus in the zone on something, you're going to be more productive than letting those texts come in or those emails come in or looking at your phone or hopping between pages and trying to do 3 different things at once.
Do you know if that's across the board, age-wise? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's very interesting, yeah.
Because I always felt like I was able to be more multitasking, but I find as I get older, I do have to focus more.
I just think that because you become wiser, you realize that you weren't doing a great job multitasking, and now you're like, oh, I gotta focus a little bit.
I don't know that there's actually an age difference, and I would say that, like, for example, my husband's a college professor, and so sees this a lot. Like last year, they were all on Zoom for teaching, which is just not a fun way to have to like do all your college classes.
No,
but being on the computer, I mean, the level of engagement in class goes way down because it's just so easy to like just pull up your email and then also be on your phone and like be, DMing on Instagram while you're trying to be in class. Like they were not actually doing class well, even though they were technically in class, and I think a lot of us are really guilty of that. Oh, I can multitask and do this well. Something is not going well. Just you might not be able to identify it for yourself.
I'm just saying when I see a young person, when I see a young person multitasking, I think they're flighty. Just FYI. I'm like, okay. And you're like, okay, I need you to focus with me, not do a million things at once.
You're only like half listening when you're in those sessions online.
I'm sorry, what?
But seriously, I mean, I've tried it. Not here. I've tried it in other places, and I mean, it's not you are only half listening to the conversation, and you're only half paying attention to what you wanted to try to do at the same time. So you're not accomplishing anything.
Yeah, it does slow you down, and it's the transition between tasks as well. Your brain needs time to reset and then focus into the new task. So when you're constantly switching back and forth, you're losing all of this time in transitions between tasks. So you're actually kind of losing time to those transitions as well.
Wow. Okay, so we've got a few moments left. If I'd like to provide at least 1 or 2 things that somebody can institute today. Again, we just talked a little bit about this, but what is like one thing that really worked for you specifically because I'm assuming you haven't always been this efficient. I'm assuming that you haven't always done batch working, or have you? Were you like?
No, I mean, learned this stuff over the years. And being a teacher was good preparation because there's a million things to do as a teacher as well, and to balance. And so that was good preparation. But so I would say the 2 top things for me, one for like productivity and having a more productive day is using that time blocking on my calendar. I want to see the major tasks that I have to do, and it allows me to prioritize for the day.
Right.
So like, I know this thing has to go out today. That's going to get that chunk of time on my calendar first, or in my most productive time slot. I'm going to make sure that that's on there. And then what are the other things I need to do? Because there's only so many hours in the day. You can't put 50 things on your calendar. They physically do not fit there for you to finish. So you start to actually see what can I accomplish realistically in my day and what needs to be prioritized. So time blocking is that one for productivity that I would just try to start using. See where your time is going.
Yeah.
And then the second one for kind of that peace of mind and bringing balance back into your life, for me, it's morning routine, but I would say in general, it should be one non-negotiable thing for you. That is the thing that centers you, calms you, gives you that peace of mind. So it might not happen in the morning for everyone, but work that back into your life. Figure out what it is for you and find a way to start putting that back into your life if you let it go, because it's going to help you be a better person in all of the other aspects of your life. You're going to serve your clients better. You're going to be a better friend. You're going to be a better partner, all of those things. So get that non-negotiable back on your calendar.
I love that. I really think that's super smart. And tomorrow morning, I'm walking. Just FYI. Damn it. Nobody call me at 6:30 in the morning. I'm walking.
Email you at 7 and see if you went.
Exactly. 30 minutes. I'm giving myself 30 minutes tomorrow morning at 6:30. Lynn, you've been an absolute doll. Thank you so much for being on the show. And I know that I'm taking a bunch of stuff away from this, especially your hatred of the post office. But totally kidding. She's totally kidding, guys. I'm just saying she loves the post office. She doesn't like the lines. Just FYI.
Exactly.
Post office people are our friends. Anyway, so Lynn, thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me back. It was such a pleasure.
So much fun. And Marcy Gutenberg with an affair to remember by Marcy. Thank you, Marcy.
Thank you.
And then next week, we've got Nancy Powers on to talk about dirty little secrets. Oh, what could we be talking about? No, it's actually going to be solutions to sanitation. Oh, yay. Okay. The one thing we always want to talk about is toilets and trash. Toilets and trash. So next week, Nancy Powers is going to be on, and we're going to be talking about solutions that you might not have thought about in the past. But for now, that's it for us for Behind the Veil. We'll see you next Tuesday at 2:00. But for now, say goodbye.
Bye.